Well, hello everybody. I'll give it a few minutes to let people log on. Critical. I just opened my emails this morning, and guess who personally emailed me? Pierre POILIEVRE. I'm not subscribed to him. I've never given my email, but it's easy to track down on my Facebook. And he sends me a personal message talking about his latest speech and what he wants to do, and overlapping some of the things I talk about, except for stopping the line at any kind of constitutionalism. He does not address the crown and his crown power should he be elected. This is disheartening. This message publicly is for you, Pierre POILIEVRE, and every Canadian and First Nations citizen. Pierre, you talk about all of this vast land for Canadians. You talk about should you be elected and the important components of that 355-page document. Pierre, I am as skilled as you, probably even better, and I'm not trying to tout my own horn here, but I can read volumes and I can process the information. I take my time, even if it takes days, on issues I need to learn more of. I will get the answers. They will be credible, they're viable and factual. Absolutely backed up in real credible history, in real credible law. I've mastered international law. I've mastered our domestic political system. I've mastered what has been done with the First Nations, the Crown system. It's great that you wish to address that. You say, let's hire a whole bunch of new government officials to negotiate with First Nations. However, nothing you present or any government has ever presented really does anything for the First Nations. There's no talk of self-government, self-determination, or settling the claims. In this world today, Pierre, you're talking to an economist. I'm as trained and skilled as Stephen Harper. I got the same education as him, as Jack Mintz, as many other economists. I understand our system, and all Canadians, First Nations understand this. When we talk about leasing to foreign enterprises who come in, big multinationals who go on that crown land in deals with the government, they don't pay any taxes or any monies if they reinvest in other portions of their company that may be foreign. It goes by your net income. This robs considerably the First Nations and considerably the Canadian people. Systematically for First Nations and Canadians, and for you, Pierre POILIEVRE. When these companies don't pay the bills, who does pay the bills? Why, it's the taxpayer. Yes, jobs are great, we all want work, but when you keep putting the public trust in the position to pay when people can't pay, or they destroy the land, or they go into receivership or even bankruptcy, it is on the public trust, whether the people can pay or not. That's why there's deficit and debts. That's why when that happens, it is the people who are held to pay. First Nations are owed a tremendous amount of money, according to the treaties. Canada never pays. We, the people, can never pay it. We can't pay that trust. That's the truth, Canadians, First Nations, and Pierre POILIEVRE. We need to settle the claims. The Crown, which is the government, which Pierre POILIEVRE, you are a Privy Council, lifetime sworn. You were a Harper Conservative in the title of Crown. You know this. You never settled anything. Only 11% of Canada is available to the Canadian people. Only 8% of Canada is available to First Nations. And worse than that, the bulk of First Nations, the real full-blood First Nations, the real Indigenous people from the very beginning, have gotten absolutely the least, with the most population mostly displaced. That was the evil of Canada. Nobody wants to address it. The world says address it. Canada takes UNDRIP, which everyone's fully behind, including you, Pierre POILIEVRE, because Canada gets to administer that non-binding law, which again makes the tax-paying citizen of Canada on the hook for everything, while all the big multinationals exploit the land that's unsettled, most of it unceded in Canada. I'm from Alberta, the most settled, ceded province in all of Canada, with absolutely all treaty, and Métis have been settled out. They are the largest private property owner group in the province of Alberta. This is a fact. Not so for the bulk of the First Nations population in Alberta, Canada, for an explanation to all Canadians, which are also per capita the most highest population. That's reality in Alberta, Canada. Nothing's been settled, nothing's been addressed. We have a gross human rights violation called the Indian Act, which again, Pierre POILIEVRE, you don't address. You don't address it at all. In fact, you want to work within that. You wish to be the crown that will continue to administer that. And then tell everybody we're working to settle First Nations, as do the Liberals, as do the NDP. I'm watching the gross violation in BC right now under NDP, bolstered absolutely by your CCP party, where you swore your crown oath under Harper, are working with the NDP government to even administer more wrongs against the First Nations people. They're starting to question. I know you've all seen that. I did get kicked out of it, just as you and your group, your powerful pack, had me restricted only to comment to you guys at one point, because you didn't want the massive conservative base to hear what I had to say. It's why you're personally emailing me now. And you know what? I am transparent, Pierre POILIEVRE. I tell all Canadians, all First Nations, how it is. If you really want to do the things you'll say, that you do say, and you give great speeches, you're tremendous at it. The problem is what you say, what's in writing, and what your crown party wants to do is not anything close to what you say. You stop short of any kind of constitutionalism that will give the power to the people, the power to the First Nations. You don't want any rules of governance, Pierre POILIEVRE. You're no different than the Liberals, the CCP party you belong to, the Greens, the Maverick Party, all the parties who embrace this pure autocratic power. Pierre, I know how the Conservative Party works. I built one myself. Even for independence, I learned that absolute autocracy. Leader, CFO, federally that's different titles, but the same definition of the positions. They have the absolute authority, nobody else. I know that MLAs and MPs, the provincial, territorial, or the federal party system, that MPs and MLAs have no real say unless they are in the Privy Council, the cabinet, or in the province, the ministry. And I even know that leaders can appoint other created ministerial positions of unelected officials. I know that the upper house Senate, Pierre POILIEVRE, is absolutely appointed and sworn to whoever wins prime minister. Absolutely sworn to that crown power. I absolutely know the Governor General, who's in charge of all bills from the Parliament made, decides if it can be ascended. And that person's appointed by Prime Minister. This is the same for all the provinces for Lieutenant Governor. The Prime Minister appoints all Lieutenant Governors who decide which provincial acts can be ascended. This corrupts absolutely every Premier to fall in line with whoever is Prime Minister. This is the problem with the system. There is no democracy, Pierre POILIEVRE. Why will you not look at our very, very limited Canadian Constitutional Act that does not give any real power to the people? It only allows the people to vote for pure autocrats every 4 years. Pick your king or queen. This is the same for the provinces. Exact same system. Why do you not address this? Why do you think it's important for you and your party to have full autocratic power where even you, Pierre, can't guarantee that the leader of your party is going to follow anything? What Stephen Harper rolled out, I know him very well, Pierre POILIEVRE. I followed him with Alliance Party. I was a fresh graduate. I met him. I met Ralph Klein, and at the time, former President George W. Bush Jr. I met him right in Edmonton, Alberta, along with every graduate of my class for economics, right on Saskatchewan Drive, Edmonton, Alberta, at a small event for all the graduates. We got to meet all three of them, talk with them, and it was Harper who promised the world, rolled out much the same, all the same things you love to say, and everyone's gravitating to you, Pierre. Stephen Harper didn't do a single thing he promised that day and every day forward, as all of those people promoted him, even sacrificing the late, great Ralph Klein, throwing him out of the Conservative Party of Alberta. I don't know if Canadians know that, but Ralph Klein was thrown out. He was voted out by the party insiders. I know I was one. I went with Stephen Harper. I didn't know any better. I believed Stephen Harper's transition of Canada. A lot of what you're saying, Pierre POILIEVRE, but I've already read your document that you signed and endorsed. And of the 9 points that you're talking about right now in the email to me but Dave, I've read all the other 170 on top of that. They're absolutely devastating. You talk about we're going to make housing low income for all these new Canadians. All of the new young Canadians are going to have it easier because we're going to subsidize housing. Pierre, businesses aren't subsidizing that. The multinational corporations aren't subsidizing that. You are going to subsidize that through every working Canadian. You are going to use the Bank of Canada, as you had Rocco Galati win in the Supreme Court under the Harper government, allowing the government, you, in your council of the time, to print as much money as needed by the Bank of Canada, devaluing every single Canadian, devastating the third class, absolutely destroying the middle class. Your socialism, that's what we're talking about here, Pierre. Your socialism isn't going to work. It's never worked in any of the civil law socialists. Canadians should be smart enough to understand this, that you can't subsidize a class of people by taking from another class of people. We historically know you will never get it out of the big corporations and multinationals. You never will. They take their great wealth and they reinvest it in growing their business. That's the nature of the beast, the nature of the globalism that you embrace, Pierre. Your party embraces. The Liberals embrace. Sure, there's another side to that, the socialist reset, but there is a globalist one. And you think that you can talk to a man who graduated economics, who you can clearly hear and see talks as well as you do, clearly, articulately, to all the people of Canada, including the First Nations. I don't have trouble because I don't lie. I let the truth flow out of my mouth, and it's why I don't trip up. I don't have any ums. Jason Kenney, for a time, was limited on his ums, but that's starting to come now, as he has to keep crafting more and more lies. Pierre, you choose to tell the truths to the people in a very limited amount of written policies you have, 9 of them. You shine a spotlight on that, but you ignore the other 170 some you have in writing by yourself and your little elite group, your shadow privy cabinet to what will be Aaron O'Toole. You don't fool me. I've been through this. I've mastered politics. I've been through it. I've been betrayed by your party time and time again. Stephen Harper cut me right in half. Cut me and so many other Albertans. Now, maybe a lot of Canadians don't have a clue. That's true. Even a lot of Albertans don't have a clue. But there is a mighty group of us that went through it at the time in living reality, as you absolutely, your party and your cabinet, Pierre, absolutely betrayed us. We're here. We're still alive today. And I know there's others who even have great talents, better than mine in some areas, that could get this out. We'll see if they come forward in their time. But I'm alive and well today, and I lived that experience, the utter betrayal of your crown power, that absolute autocracy that you all want, you desperately want. I've watched it be corrupted over and over and over again. It's what sent me out to the greatest universities in the world, Pierre. And as your party's starting to look, he most certainly did do that. And he most certainly does have strong connections in the Republican Party today, a more powerful pack than your Conservative pack here in Canada. And yes, I will be taking you on. And I don't need to beg for money from the people of Canada. Not at this time anyway. When the time comes, when I can deliver on the promises I make, I will ask for help. But I promise all of you, and you, Pierre POILIEVRE, I won't be going to the special interests for it. I'll be going to the grassroots people. I will always stand against the evil of this world and of my own country, who is front and center. Pierre, you have some good policies, but you have a tremendous amount of bad ones. You did not say anything during the Harper years. You allowed him to absolutely destroy the Canadian people. You absolutely allowed him to transform immigration into a campaign against the citizens of Canada, devaluing them. You allowed the Bank of Canada to be turned into a printing money machine, like many autocracy, despots, and pure socialist countries, just like Venezuela. You promise all kinds of things, but yet you embrace serious globalism and absolute socialism. And you want me to look and highlight your qualities, your 9 policies, against the tremendous evil of 170 more that promise to destroy the lives of every Canadian. You may have big business in your corner. You may try to take them and then promise the masses, because they don't know any better, key highlights to empower them, but the reality is you have a bag of lies coming forward, just like Stephen Harper, just like Justin Trudeau and the Liberals, and absolutely the NDP. Sure, when it comes to open debate and forum, Conservatives are better than the rest. I know the evil of the left. I know where they get their tremendous strength. And sure, they cut me out, but I can't go with your narrative because you embrace a globalism, an NWO. Canada leads in it because your party leads in it. You're corrupted. Your party's corrupted. Why? Because we have no constitutionalism. The United States of America and many other countries, they won't breach the law of sovereignty. They can't. But it doesn't mean they can't embrace academics. It doesn't mean I can't bring forward university experts, which I will. And the promise I make, Canadians, whether you want to believe that or not, you will find one gives a great presentation. Richard Albert, who's already done that presentation for the University of Ottawa. We're not dead yet here in Canada. Oh man, wireless, I cannot stand. Ontario, and for everybody to know, sorry about this, I would love to switch over to 5G. I would love to. But I'm in contract on my 4G, stuck in it. It would be thousands to pay that out, even though I get crappy service. I have a huge data plan, like it helps me without the cell phone coverage. We'll see. I might just dig in the pockets and pay anyway, but it's disheartening. More abuse of civil rights. But back to you, Pierre POILIEVRE, Canadians and First Nations. Until you address constitutionalism, until you're ready to give the power to the people and set the rules of governance, look at the bulk of the free world in absolute constitutionalism, as even third world countries that are climbing fast to the second world status, soon to be first world, and Canada slides to second world, because you believe that somehow you have a divine right to rule over peoples, that somehow in absolute autocracy you know better. Well, you don't. You don't, and historically it's proven. It's proven to all Canadians, and if anything COVID did is highlight that Conservatives, Liberals, NDP, and all the rest who've been elected, even in their little MP, MLA statuses, are garbage. They can't function without rules of governance. We're all children of this earth. We must learn from our mistakes and correct them. That's what constitutes great big organizations, and the trillions of dollars are owned by the American people. This is not the case for Canadians, and it never will be. It never will be, because there's no constitutional system to empower that. There's no soul of a nation, just filthy autocrats. Pierre POILIEVRE, the First Nations, as they are in their entirety, scrapping this Indian Act, giving them First Nations self-government, self-determination, and absolutely settling the claims. Freeing up this 79% of Canada, giving a tremendous amount to the First Nations, which they are duly owed, and allow them to administer it as they want to. Allow them to take portions of the land, First Nations, until you're ready to do all those things and give the power to the people and set limits on politicians and talk real absolute constitutionalism. You're never going to have the United States of America or any of the free world behind you. And World Constitution Day is coming. I'm actually going to throw that tag in here too. So that lasts in the free world. Oh boy, everybody, oh boy, right? Unbelievable. Just to keep throwing it off. It's amazing, right? Sad. This is my video. There's no real reason to continue on because this is going to keep happening. tremendous amount of money I pay for this. On the hook for more civil rights that you can't get out of. Powers over all of you by premiers, crown-empowered politicians who strip you of your rights, hold you to it. It's always the people who pay, people on the hook. There's no getting out. Not until we codify constitutions. I want to hear from you, Pierre POILIEVRE, constitutionalism, accountability, rules of governance. Till you talk like that, you're just another Stephen Harper, Justin Trudeau, and the rest of the autocrats. Thank you, everybody. That's my video today. Share, share, share. I'm going to go back and tag the Constitutional World Constitution Day. Hashtag. Use it, people.